There's an image you have in your head. A man in a perfectly pressed linen shirt. A woman in a camel coat. Leather shoes that cost more than your rent. Quiet. Graceful. Tasteful. That's not old money. That's the costume people wear when they want to look like old money. Real old money, the kind that's been sitting in trust funds since before your parents were born, looks different. It looks worn. It looks like it doesn't know what year it is. Sometimes, honestly, it looks a little ugly, and that's exactly the point. Walk into any luxury brand's flagship store right now, and you'll see it. The old money fantasy. Structured bags, monogram scarves, understated logos that cost a fortune to recognize. The marketing is everywhere. Classic, timeless, refined. And people buy it, literally and figuratively. They buy the camel coat. They buy the leather loafers. They buy the idea that looking expensive and looking like old money are the same thing. They're not. Old money doesn't look expensive. Old money looks indifferent. And those are two entirely different things. What the internet calls quiet luxury, the beige, the minimal, the logo-free, is actually still a performance. It's still trying. It's still asking you to notice. Old money doesn't ask. So what does it actually look like? It looks like a blazer that's 2 sizes too large, bought 20 years ago from a country tailor in England, worn with trousers that don't quite match. A polo shirt from a brand that stopped making that exact color in 1987. Boat shoes that are genuinely falling apart. A watch that belonged to your grandfather, not because vintage is trending, but because you actually got it from your grandfather. To the untrained eye, it looks like someone who doesn't care about clothes, which is almost correct. They don't care about the clothes. They care deeply about something else. They care about belonging to a group so exclusive it has no membership card, no dress code, and no name. The only way in is to already be in. When someone new to money buys a designer piece, they're buying a message. I can afford this. When someone from old money reaches into the back of a closet for a faded Barber jacket, the message is different. It's, I have never needed to prove this. 1. Why visible wealth is a liability. There's a concept economists sometimes call signaling costs. The idea is simple. For a signal to be credible, it has to be expensive or difficult to fake. A logo is cheap to fake. A knockoff Chanel bag looks almost identical to the real one from 5 feet away. So people who want to signal genuine status have to find something that can't be copied. Not because the object itself is uncopyable, but because the relationship to the object is. You can buy the same blazer. You cannot buy the same ease. People who grew up with money have a physical relationship to their clothes. They don't think about them. They don't adjust them. They don't check themselves in windows. The clothes are just there. The way furniture is just there. That relationship, that total lack of self-consciousness, is the signal, and it takes a lifetime to build. New money buys objects. Old money inherits a posture. 2. The deliberate ugliness. Here's where it gets interesting. It's not just that old money dresses casually. It's that some of the choices are actively, almost aggressively anti-fashion. Corduroy in colors no one is wearing. Plaid patterns that clash. Shoes that a stylist would call unacceptable. Belts with family crests. Trousers hemmed slightly too short. This isn't accidental. It's a declaration. The declaration is this: I am so far outside the approval system that fashion operates within, I don't even have to oppose it. I simply don't see it. Fashion is for people who need it. I don't need it. That indifference to trend is one of the most powerful social signals that exists, because trends require insecurity to function. You follow a trend because you're afraid of being wrong. When you're so secure, you can wear the wrong thing without a flicker of anxiety. That security is visible. People feel it before they understand it. 3. New money versus old money. The real contrast. This comparison gets made all the time. Usually it's framed as taste. Old money has it, new money doesn't. That's wrong and a little cruel. It's not about taste. It's about what you're communicating and to whom. New money is legible. It's designed to be read by everyone. The Rolex, the Birkin, the penthouse, the car. These are signals optimized for a broad audience. They work because almost everyone knows what they mean. Old money is illegible to outsiders. It's encoded. The lob shoes that look beat up. The huntsman jacket bought before you were born. The country club tie worn ironically, but not. These things mean something, but only to people who already know. The difference isn't taste, it's audience. New money broadcasts, old money whispers. And the people who matter, the ones who would recognize the whisper, hear it perfectly. 4. The effortlessness. That takes effort. There is one thing to be careful about here. The ease is real. The indifference is real. But the cultivation of that ease is not accidental. It was constructed over generations through institutions, boarding schools, country estates, clubs, family dinners where the dress code was never spoken because it never needed to be. The not trying is learned. It's just learned so early and so completely that it no longer registers as learning. This is what makes the aesthetic impossible to truly replicate. You can buy the Barber jacket. You can buy it worn and faded. You can nail every piece. But if you're thinking about nailing every piece, if there's any effort visible in the assembly, it's already wrong. The moment you try to look like you're not trying, you're trying. Old money doesn't try to look like old money. That's the trap. And it's airtight. Let's step back. What we've been describing isn't really a style. It's a sorting mechanism. The ugly blazer, the worn-out shoes, the mismatched separates, they function like a filter. The filter has one purpose, to separate people who understand the code from people who don't. And here's the thing about filters. They're not trying to impress you. They're trying to identify you. If you look at a man in a moth-eaten sweater and think he looks like he's struggling, you've been filtered out. If you look at the same man and immediately recognize the school crest, the cut, the ease, the specific quality of not caring, you're in. The ugliness isn't a mistake, it's the password. When someone is wealthy enough, secure enough, and established enough to disappear into ordinariness, to wear things that announce nothing to anyone who isn't already initiated, that disappearance is itself a statement. It says, I am beyond the approval system entirely. The most powerful people in any room are often the least visible, not because they're hiding, because they don't need to be seen. This isn't a guide on how to dress like old money. That's not the point. And if you're reading a guide on how to do it, you've already missed it. But there is value in learning to read it. The tells are specific, clothes that fit loosely in a way that's been normalized by years, not chosen from a rack. Natural fabrics, linen, tweed, wool that have texture and age and aren't trying to look expensive. Shoes that have been resoled, not replaced. Accessories that are functional, not decorative. The signet ring that actually means something. The watch set to a different time zone for no obvious reason. The absence of logos, not the absence of luxury. The absence of the need to show luxury. And underneath all of it, posture. Not the rigid, performative posture of someone who's been told to stand up straight. The loose, unthinking posture of someone who has never needed to perform. Once you can read it, you start seeing it everywhere. And you start seeing its opposite everywhere too. The very expensive outfit that's working too hard. The watch that's slightly too loud. The person who looks flawless and somehow anxious about it. The code, once you see it, is impossible to unsee. We began with an image, a man in pressed linen, a woman in a perfect coat, the elegant fantasy of inherited wealth. That image was always a costume, a performance written for an audience that doesn't exist in the rooms that matter. Real status, the deep, generational kind, doesn't perform. It doesn't optimize. It doesn't follow anything, not even the rules of quiet luxury. It simply exists, worn in and slightly wrong and completely indifferent to what you think. There is something almost philosophical about it. The things we chase to prove ourselves, the visible wealth, the branded signals, the look of success, are, by their nature, the opposite of real security. Real security looks like it doesn't need to say anything. The ugliness was never a flaw, it was always the point.